Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Can We Talk 420. This is a special episode, and we should have two guests on today. Hoping our second guest will come because I do have a great surprise for her, man. And it's a surprise for everybody. It was a surprise for all of us, and I'm just so pleased to have him on our show.
Who's him?
Craig Cecil.
There you go. What's up? You got to say the name sometimes, honey. Not everybody.
I was being a little secretive about it.
I know. I'm only teasing you. Listen, Helen will be doing a lot of the talking tonight. I've got a bit of an infection in my gum line.
So, who's he kidding? I punched him in the mouth.
Yeah, she took me out, stuck a knife in my back. It's been fun just trying to get on the radio today. But thanks to Jim Freedom and his production of the show. We appreciate everything Jim does. Jim's a spot on guy, man, and he makes sure that everything runs smooth for us.
Because we're just all over the place.
Yeah, exactly.
Always. But this is such a great thing having Craig on. I'm so happy and I'm so proud and honored to have him on. Such an injustice was done to him. He was the victim of a broken system, doing 18 years away from his child, away from his life. And how do we give that back to him?
No.
As a society, how do we give that back to him?
We will get into that.
We will.
And I can't wait to let him, be able to voice himself. We've been listening to Craig for years, on the radio.
Yeah.
Was used to be on once a week on Joe's
on
show,
Joe's, yeah.
On A Cup of Joe. So it was always great to hear him on there, every week. But now we get to have him on ours and let him tell his story a bit more. But the life on the in the outback or in the off grid is
the off grid. It's not the outback, baby. Well, but it kind of looks that way, maybe. But no kangaroos hanging around here.
The out grid. The off grid. The off-grid living is going crazy. This week we get our home delivered finally.
Yeah, I feel like I've been saying that for the past month. Don't you?
Have, because they told you that for the past month. But I think this time we're really going to get it.
I freaking hope so. I've already made my first payment.
Well, listen. You made your first payment. You owe them one less. That's it's the only reason they asked if we wanted it back. I said no. Why am I going to take it back? It's stupid.
No, I wouldn't want it. That is stupid. Why would they? Why?
Because they feel the same way you do. They haven't delivered the product.
Oh, but either way, I have to pay on it for 3 years. So I'm paying on it for 3 years regardless. Exactly. But yes, Mother Nature's Den should start building within 2 weeks is my hope. So fingers crossed, everybody. Mother Nature's Den. Build begins.
Well, we had our puppies. We had a puppy incident yesterday on the off grid.
Jim, you missed it. The puppies went at it, man, like fighting. Oh well, him too, yeah. Bagheera got sick in the morning, and you think he ate some? I think he had a seizure.
I think he ate some.
Maybe he did. It can't. He started yelping and whining. All his limbs went straight out. And then he just pissed all over, lost his bowels, and was completely lethargic the entire day. That screams seizure.
I had him with CBD. He was,
Well, we just need to give him CBD every single day. He needs to be on it every day. But then after that, because
I find out whether it's it or not, because I want to know if he's got
bullshit. It's not like it's going to hurt him.
No, I know it's not going to hurt him.
So you just give it to him.
Oh Christ! Almighty! You sound like every doctor in America.
Really?
Just give it to him.
It's Mother Nature's remedy.
I get that.
Okay, so that's it.
Evaluate before you.
Let's end that discussion right now. Anyway, after that incident happened, Bagheera was in no shape to play with Marilyn, and Marilyn really loves to play with Bagheera.
They play about 12 hours a day.
So, since she couldn't get her energy out, she went to Briosa, and Briosa and her literally had a lock fight where they were fighting to the death, these puppies.
Yeah, Bree had her. She had her by the throat right down on the ground. I had to jump in there, Helen.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
I picked up Briosa, and Marilyn was right with her. I've had both of the dogs up in the air in one
So
shot.
you missed the dog fight between the girls,
Yeah.
Jim.
We hope that
And-
it was just a one-time incident.
Yes, we hope that it was a one-time incident, but I don't know, man. They
It was
keep
crazy.
sizing each other up. They
We
really
had-
do.
We had the garden. The garden lost a couple of
Yes.
residents today, so we're
Yeah,
down to
Papa Joe Dirt and Anthony left
moving
the
on.
premises
They've moved on
today.
now. They've moved on now, and Anthony got a job at the Veterans
The Veteran
Kins
Kins Community
which is a cannabis grow that's
that Stacy Tice
Tice
works
works
at,
at,
the owner of the Cannabis. She is the assistant to the owner of the property, and it will do really well for Papa
oh,
Joe.
Yeah,
He will do really well, and so will Anthony.
Oh,
Anthony
Anthony
will
got
do
a
well
job
there
there,
too.
so Anthony's gonna be working.
So
And
it's,
that's always
and
good.
making
that
some
people-
money.
Right, right. He's got a place to live. He's gonna make some
that's
money.
right.
Mhm.
But what the Veterans Kins Community is, it's all they have how many acres there? 100 acres, right?
100 acres. Jim, you can cue the flyover if you've got it.
Yeah, you can cue the
Helen just
flyover.
talks. Go ahead, Helen.
And the Veterans Kins Community is for vets, of course, and their families. Each vet that comes will get a 2.5 acre lot. And in that 2.5 acre lot, 1 acre will be hemp specific for their income.
Right, that's how they're
Then
earning their money.
they'll have their own bee sanctuary on their property, and their vegetable and flower garden and or
Mhm.
and
Yeah, they grow their own food. They can grow whatever they want. on there.
each 2.5 acre lot, the hemp 1 acre hemp lots will back up against each other.
Right, right.
So it's a great plan. It's very well thought out,
Well,
and
listen, they're very well organized.
very
Anyway,
well organized,
It's a
and
dome
they
city.
got progression.
It's a dome city. It's a beautiful inhabitants.
Mhm.
They take good care of the place and the people there. And again, they're all veterans. What better can we do than take care of these guys that have, sacrificed their lives for the suit?
My God, look, we have so many broken laws and policies that surround the vets, that surround our cannabis patients, that surround so many things that it's just
That
such a
surround
broken system.
Listen, cannabis in general. If anybody, you can't be in your right mind and believe somebody should spend a second's worth of time
In jail.
in jail
for something-
for this plant. I mean,
Well, look, once you understand what the endocannabinoid system is, human physiology, and how this plant mimics your human physiology, it's a no-brainer after that.
That's right.
It's human genocide if we don't have it.
that's right.
And that's unacceptable to me and any other logical mind I come in contact with.
That's right. And that's the thing. The thing about it is that if we don't realize or look, the problem again is always thinking outside the box. We never think outside the box. We're always involved in these problems. When you think about how we can get people to understand, and this is where it's always going to come back to, is when we can get people to understand that they've been lied to, tricked, bamboozled, hoodwinked, whatever word it is that fits your demographic. I don't care what it is. Whatever that word is, that's what they've done to every one of you. Every one of us. And I shouldn't say yeah, because I was a yeah,
Yep.
and I woke up one day and I understood that why was I dying? Because I was being killed. I was literally being killed.
And conforming to that way of life.
And saying
Easily.
and defending it the whole way down the road. Here we go
Yeah.
down the mulberry bush.
With
Why are you
every
taking 130
pill
pills
bottle
a day?
and-
Because that's what they told me I need to take to stay
Yeah.
alive.
And
that's
that's see, now let's hit on that for a second. Let's sit and let that resonate. How many people say that so quickly, so easily? Oh, because the doctor said so.
yeah.
Okay, so what the fuck does that mean?
I don't mean a thing.
Because the doctor said so. Okay. It doesn't mean a damn thing, especially with all the mistakes they're making now. I mean,
This is just proof in the pudding.
proof is
The next time that someone you love, including yourself, whatever it is, needs a procedure done, tell me if you only have to go once. I mean, honestly, tell me if you only ever have to go once to have that thing done.
There'll be a mistake
something not
made.
screwed up about it. I just almost lost a friend of mine last week. I mean, for 2 days, man, I was at my wit's end. I'm all the way here in Arizona. He's in New York. I love this guy. I've known him since middle school, and literally almost killed this guy.
All right, let's get back to what we're supposed to be talking about, which is
Craig right now.
Craig and how wrong it is to put anybody in jail for cannabis.
Absolutely.
Period. For a plant, any plant. Absolutely. So let's bring Craig on. Can we do that, Jim?
Hello. Craig is here.
Hello, Mr. Craig Cecil. My God, it's so wonderful to see your face on a camera and not just have to hear your voice on a phone.
Yes, and not
always
not
wonderful to me. My new phone
every so often.
access.
Yeah, I love that you'll be able to talk now, Craig, and we won't have to hear you are now speaking to an inmate at and you get to talk freely. If you want to talk for 18 minutes, you do, and if you want to talk for 80 minutes,
that's
you do.
right.
We don't care.
So, Craig, I know that you've been doing some shows, and so people have been hearing your story. I want for my viewers to hear what happened to you. From the beginning, what happened? Tell us the story, and then I have some other questions for you.
Pretty simply, back in 2002, I was 42 years old, and I operated a company which repaired refrigerated semis. And amongst my customers was a Florida company that some of their drivers used the trucks to haul marijuana. When they got arrested with marijuana, they were told as many people that are tied to you that you can get arrested will reduce your sentence. So lo and behold, I was arrested not for buying or selling or ever having marijuana, but under the laws that said I conspired to distribute marijuana by helping them in their trucking industry that they use to haul and to market marijuana. So I never bought, never sold, never had, never grew marijuana. But there I was charged with conspiring to distribute marijuana. Well, this was right after the events of September 11th. And the big narrative at the time was that drug dealers, including marijuana conspirators, were financing terrorism. So, So lo and behold, although I had never been arrested before, I had no criminal. They determined that just by helping this trucking company, I was guilty of conspiring to distribute marijuana, and they sentenced me to life imprisonment, life without the possibility of parole, in the federal court in Gainesville, Georgia. And I was just determined at that time that no court of appeals would allow that. And but sure enough, the Court of Appeals determined that there was nothing wrong with that, just because the law allows drug offenders to be sentenced up to life imprisonment. Sadly, because I had no criminal history and all that, had I instead been convicted of rape, the way the sentencing guidelines work, I would have faced a maximum of 33 months in prison. But yet on a marijuana conspiracy charge, I was sentenced to life imprisonment. And I've spent since March of 2002 fighting what I and everybody else sees in it as an injustice. How could I be in prison for that amount of time? And especially going through the federal prison system, I've had numerous cellmates and even people that were convicted of murder that I seen come in and go home. Last year, I was at the prison in Terre Haute, Indiana, and there was a guy down the hall from me. He was named John Walker Lynn, and now he is also known as the White Taliban. In 2003, the year after I was arrested, he was arrested in Afghanistan for shooting CIA agents and our Army Rangers to try to help the Taliban that he was working with. They brought him back to the United States, convicted of providing aid to terrorists by shooting these CIA agents, and he earned the statutory maximum sentence. He got a 20-year sentence for that, and last year he went home. But sadly, if instead of killing people for the Taliban, instead of doing that, if he would have given the Taliban aid by giving them marijuana, he'd be serving a life sentence as well. There's something very wrong about our marijuana laws in this country, as so many people have seen. We've seen marijuana store owners, with their license, getting locked up in the federal system and given draconian sentences, and our federal laws are just still unconnected with Americans. We don't have any people in Congress that are brave enough to stand up and are ready to change again. But sadly, as much as I can tell you what's wrong with our marijuana laws, I'm a rare exception as I can tell you what's right about the COVID-19. Because what's happened to me is after all this time in federal prison and all these fights with lawyers and courts and all that, what happened is the Congress a little bit over a month ago passed the CARES Act, and it was signed by the president. And part of the provision in that is that in light of the COVID-19 going through the federal prison system, they gave the Attorney General the power to take some federal prisoners who were had no history of violence, that would not be a threat to society. But the Attorney General could allow those people to go home on home confinement to get them out of the prisons, where some of the prisons had huge breakouts of the COVID-19. So lo and behold, the Bureau of Prisons determined that I was eligible under the rules that Attorney General Barr put together for federal prisoners to go home, and that I was very unlikely to commit another crime. I have no history of violence. My crime wasn't serious as compared to many. And he approved it. But then the warden at the prison in Terre Haute, Indiana, determined, nope, nobody's going home. I don't care what the Bureau of Prisons says. He was just determined, and he made a big scene about it in front of about 130 inmates to tell me that he had blocked it. He was all proud of himself. And well, a lot of activists like yourself and so many others, Sherry Sicard and my daughter and her social network, and that just reached out to people all over the country saying, look how wrong this is. Please contact the Attorney General. Please contact the Director of Bureau of Prisons. Please contact Washington, D.C. And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, the warden came to me with he wasn't so proud this time. He had his chin on against his chest, and he says, Washington, D.C. told me to reconsider your release. Then, and on June 16th, after 14 days in quarantine and the warden's notice, I walked out of the front gate of the prison, and be honest, I didn't believe it. I didn't pack to leave until 4 o'clock that morning. I really didn't believe it was going to come true, because I'd heard of so many people that were promised these things and it didn't happen.
Right.
I walked out the front door.
Let me ask you, why do you have a thought in your mind of why this warden was trying to monkey wrench everything you did? I mean, did he have a personal vendetta? Was he just on a power trip? What is it?
What it is unfortunately, it's an ideology of a lot of people in our prison systems. Unfortunately, it's not most of them, but many of them have a belief that their job in running the prison or working in the prison is to punish people. So they go out of their way to do things to hurt people. As a matter of fact, we're both very well aware of all the events with George Floyd in Minneapolis, where the police officer just straight out killed him. The same day, Jamel Floyd, no relation, he broke the window in his cell, and federal prison guards went and sprayed him so much with pepper spray while he was just sitting safely in his cell, and they killed him.
God.
But this kind of stuff doesn't get noticed. I mean,
No.
prisons are inhumane places. The United States complains about what other countries do in their justice systems, but very few other countries sentence people to life without the possibility of parole for marijuana.
Well,
Right,
listen,
and
not
you-
only that, not only that, you're tossed away like garbage again, like for a plant. Come on, it's not.
And you never even touched cannabis before. Is that correct?
No, they agree. They agreed that I never bought it, I never sold it, I never benefited financially from it.
Mm-hmm.
But
So-
just because I had a peripheral role in helping people.
They tried you in numerous states before they locked you away finally, didn't they?
Yes, they originally tried to charge me in Chicago, where my business is located, and the grand jury wouldn't even indict. Then they did indict me down in Corpus Christi, Texas, and it came up to the day of the trial, and the judge started looking at the paperwork. She asked the prosecutor, "What are you trying to prove?" And he told her, and the judge just shrugged and said, "That's not against the law."
That's right.
He didn't do anything with marijuana.
Right, exactly.
It just seems like you were completely railroaded from the beginning, and
Correct.
one thing I want to ask you, since you've been released, now you're on house quarantine, correct?
Correct, on home confinement, it's called.
So your sentence hasn't actually been vacated.
Right. No, they didn't do anything.
No.
For a second.
I am still
So
a Bureau
now-
of Prisons prisoner.
So what would stop them? What would cause them? I should ask you. What would cause them to just take you out of the house and put you back in jail? What things would you have to do? I mean, walk outside of the mailbox, walk too far into the road? What?
One of two things. They determined that I've violated or committed a prohibited act. Like you say, I've went too far away from the house. I was out longer than I should be. I tested positive for drugs. Actual violation. I would go back to the Bureau of Prisons, and it's actually possible that they will call me back to the Bureau of Prisons for no reason at all. I'm still a Federal Bureau of Prisons prisoner. So this is actually a transfer to home confinement.
Nationally, we're declared safe from COVID. COVID's all gone. Do they come back and get you?
Yeah.
Yes, they can give me a notice to show up tomorrow at the prison in Leavenworth.
How do we
that's
stop
hanging
that,
over my
Craig?
head.
Well, we keep the battle going for his freedom. He fights just like if he was in a cell, but he at least gets to do it from the comfort of his daughter's
And this
home.
is my point for bringing it up. I want to say to all of our viewers, this isn't over for Craig.
No, heck no. We're
He's
still fighting.
home. Yes. He's with his daughter.
Yeah.
Yes. The fight still continues. We need to keep him home.
That's right.
We need to keep him home without restriction. We as citizens owe him this. We need to continue to fight for him to stay home with his daughter without restriction.
Because that's my goal. That's my goal, is to show them how I live at home and not give them any reason other than that they want to pull people back in the Bureau of Prisons. Because the Bureau of Prisons, believe it or not, is running out of prisoners. Their
They
population
took from you. You're the victim here, and they owe you. This is such a travesty of justice.
Yeah,
It's from the beginning to the end. It's
Listen,
so broken and so wrong what's happening
The
to
thing
you.
about it is that people don't pay attention to it, because it's when something like this goes on, it's not big news all the time. Unless it's in a small town, and it's really going to make a difference. They'll blast up. Guy gets such and such for pot, because if they put it up there and they actually put up the sentences for how long people were getting for weed, rather than people that are just walking down the street after molesting a 5-year-old kid with a smack on their wrist and 18 months probation.
Yeah.
They don't want people to know. They don't.
Well, come on. What was
people
that
to-
movie we were
We
watching?
when we sat in Salina, Ohio with Glenn and
Oh,
Peggy
yeah.
for 3 days with our table, the people there were appalled. What do you mean 50 years for 2 grams of wax? No, 50 years each, not just.
Well,
50
and that's
years.
the thing, though. In Peggy and Glenn's case, nobody in their community even knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Which
Let's do
it's
this.
been in the paper. They were on the local news. It's like, come on, is anybody paying paying
They're
attention.
chapter
But
coordinators.
yet, now we were just watching the biography, The Dirt, on Motley Crue. Now, when Vince Neil got into his car accident and killed Razzle drunk, what did he do? 16 days?
16 days and $2.5 million.
Come on, man.
It just says if you got $2.5 million.
The nonsensical shit needs to stop. Because our logical minds can't wrap around why Mr. Craig Cecil is still going through what he's going through.
Well, listen,
He shouldn't be doing it.
the point I think that people should understand is that, you know, you got a guy like Craig, 42 years old, business owner, worked on trucks.
Mhm.
He's thrown in jail. He ain't thrown in jail with dudes
He
that
is
miss
the
child
victim.
support.
Yes, but he's
Hold
the
on.
victim, and where's
He's
the
sitting in
justice?
jail with guys that would have killed him, you know,
Yep.
you know, twice over.
Yep.
You know, and he's had guys get out before him that
Yep.
have killed people that are prominent in that's the travesty here. That and to be picked on the whole time he was there, have his medicines withheld from him,
Yes.
have his, you know, to
His
be
elbow
injured,
broken.
right?
Yep.
That's the things that people don't know about or don't see or don't understand is that it's just a regular guy getting thrown into this hell and then having hell imposed upon him.
Speaking of that, how is your arm? Is your mobility back to normal, or will you ever have it?
It's better, but now that I'm out, I'm gonna have to find a way to get it formally treated. But there's something broken in it, and it needs to be treated. And one way or another, I'll find a way to get it done.
See, you know, you're a blessing because you know you have no anger. Like I'm angry for you, you know, and you're such a humble, simple man, and I think you're owed 18 years. You're owed so much, and here you're.
He's owed. His daughter's owed.
I just.
Come on,
It's horrible.
we can't. The thing is how do you pay that? You can't pay that back. You can't give it.
Well, you know what? But you know what we can do? We can make sure that he doesn't have to go out and try to find the medical treatment. It should be paid for. It should be given to him.
Oh, well, no,
These are things that
he shouldn't have to worry.
No,
about
he shouldn't have to
going
worry
back
about any of that.
I mean, he's out. Why should he have to worry about going back? Now, do you think part of their thought process, Craig, is to see how you are and how you react when you get home?
I think to some it will be. Now, how
Okay.
how the mechanics of it work is I'm on home confinement, but I'm to be monitored by a halfway house that's located in Chicago. It's a Salvation Army halfway house. And I noticed those people haven't even figured out what my rules are because they admitted they've never had anybody on 8 years of home confinement before. And I see that they're just monitoring me very carefully.
Jesus.
Wow, and it's crazy because I'm sure it's just going to be, you know, pretty boring for them to be monitoring because, well, you know, he's a simple guy. He's not going out there doing crazy things.
What was the first thing you wanted when you walked out that door?
What was
After a hug, obviously, from your daughter. What was the first thing when you guys got in the car? You said, "Hey, stop and get me."
It actually started before that. As soon as I actually walked out the door of the prison, because, be honest, I just did not have that much confidence.
Okay.
But I walked out of the front door of the prison. I see my daughter in the parking lot, and I just told her I was carrying some paperwork. And I just said quickly, "Get the car now. Let's get out of here now."
It became the getaway car.
My son-in-law to be wanted to film it on his phone, and she just echoed that. Nope, get the car now. Let's get out of here. And as you can see, we stopped by the roadway to take a picture by the sign so people that actually believe I'm outside of the razor wire.
Is that home confinement indefinite, or is there a date on it?
Well, the way it's structured right now is the Bureau of Prison is showing me with a 30-year sentence, which would expire in 2028. So they're saying I'm on home confinement until 2028. And after that, I would be on 5 years of supervised release, which is something like parole. I'm hoping with the access I now have by not being in the prison, access to the internet, access to a telephone, all those kind of things. I'm hoping I can make a good presentation in my sentencing court where my judge finally died, unfortunately, and see if we can do something to change the sentence.
Yeah.
I'm really going to have to make an effort for that.
For sure.
Craig, I want you to let people know how important it is while you're in there to hear from people out here, and let people know that you do have your
I
support.
think we have
That they
comments
do
up too.
support you.
Well, that's it, because people don't realize, even in the prison, when new staff members would come in, some of the existing staff members would pull me up and introduce me to new staffers and say, "Look at this guy," and explain my case that I'm doing life for marijuana. That happened to me my whole time in the federal prison. That
Wow.
my egregious sentence even surprised all the guards. The funny part of that was, though, is somebody had some fun, had a sense of humor apparently. The day they were going to send me to the quarantine to leave, is they went over the frequency on the radio heard by every staff member in the prison, and they said, "Send me to quarantine. Cecil is going home." And there were staff members all over the place in the corridor congratulating me and that. So
Wow.
most of the Bureau of Prison people are real people. There's a select few that aren't, but those people were extremely supportive. They know
Well,
right
that's
from
good.
wrong.
Well, that's
They know
good.
right from wrong.
That's good. So, hey, Jim, I see we have some comments. Anything that we want to share?
Yeah, sorry, sneak peek of the producer producing on the go today. As you can see, I didn't make it home in time for the show, so I had to stop in a parking lot to broadcast. But I'm here to produce the show, even in the van mobily. I've been displaying comments as you go, just as people are things that are relevant, so the viewers can see them. But I'll go back over them real quick just for you guys, and I'll read them so you guys can see what people are saying. Tracy Glore Pike was just saying hello, you all, and she said hi to Craig. One team, one dream.
Yep.
So that was a good one. Vanessa Ortiz was just shaking her head. She says that's crazy. That was when you were telling the story of what actually happened to you. We saw a lot of WTFs, which means I don't know if you remember this, but that's what the fuck. So we got a lot of those because people just can't believe your story, man. Also, by the way, let me back up. What I should have started with, Craig, is it's nice to virtually meet you, and I'm glad you're home. I agree with their sentiment. I agree with their sentiment that it's bullshit in the first place. You shouldn't be in this limbo like a carrot on a stick. You get to be home now, but you got the threat looming that you could go back at any time. I think that's bull crap. But obviously, that's just my opinion. And again, I'm glad you get to enjoy a solace for a little while and hold your daughter for a little while. That's very awesome.
Thank you. This is wonderful.
Somebody else is asking how they're even allowed to do that to you. I'm wondering the same thing, man. I don't know how they can railroad people like this and get away with it,
They're doing it. Awareness is how we're going to get over this. We need to make more people aware. We need to make our army in this fight bigger.
Cannabis is the most punishable drug there is. It's the most punishable. People go to jail less for cocaine, for heroin, for
murder.
I know, but I'm just talking in the drug field. Cannabis, the least harmful thing on the planet is.
The average sentence served in the United States for murder, the actual time served, the average is 12.4 years. And I'm one of many, unfortunately, people sentenced to life for marijuana. As you know, John Knox and others that have been down as long as I have, and there's no way you can rationalize that.
Here's a question from the audience for you. What form, it's from Kim Fogelman on Facebook, what format should we write for the fight to keep you free and completely released from this shit?
Good
question.
What do you
recommend? Who do you recommend people write to specifically, or what format do you think is the best to help you stay home and get free of charges completely, not just home confinement?
That may be to the Bureau of Prisons, and again, the Attorney General, but more than that, contact your congressman.
Yes.
why if I was convicted of rape would I face a sentence of up to 33 months? But instead I was convicted of not possessing marijuana, but conspiring with somebody to distribute marijuana and face life. The war on drugs is wore out. It never
Yeah.
worked. Drugs got more plentiful. They got cheaper, especially since they raised the penalty. Marijuana's been illegal since 1937. All the way up to the 1970s, it carried up to 5 years in prison. It's carried up to life imprisonment since 1986, and it hasn't stopped marijuana, and it hasn't even slowed down any of the other drugs.
Nope.
The war on drugs hasn't worked. The
That's
only
right.
victims of marijuana are victimized by our federal laws, not by marijuana,
right.
not by the use of marijuana, any of that. They're victimized by our law enforcement and by
That's right.
antiquated laws that didn't work in the first place and they're not working now.
Right. Well said, Craig. One thing I want to know from you is how have you been acclimating since you've been out? Lots of changes in these 18 years, everywhere around you. How have you been acclimating? Easily, or you're finding it difficult?
I'm finding it hysterical, to be honest. I feel as though I just came out of a time machine from shortly after the events of September 11th. Because here I was, 60 years old, walking out of the prison. They showed me a phone that didn't look like a phone, and I had no idea how to make a phone call. I'm still struggling with the phone.
You're looking for the payphones, aren't you?
Yes, and with a dial on. And I mean, I'm just amazed at all the the technological changes and all that. And plus, I've been kind of scrambling. Remember, I walked out of the prisons wearing sweatpants, and that was it. I didn't bring any clothes home with me, so I mean, I had to get socks, and it's been crazy. Like I say, it's kind of like walking out of a time machine, or I guess like Rumpelstiltskin, where I don't have any idea how anything works. I watched my son-in-law to be pick up the TV remote. He spoke to the remote and said, "This is what I want to watch on TV," and it changed the channel. I could never imagine anything like that.
It's like the Jetsons.
Yeah.
I can sit here and yell, "Hey Google," and ask it, where's the phone number to anywhere in the world, and it tells me.
Yep, that's right. So how have you been sleeping? I mean, I don't know how well you slept 18 years in there, but how have you slept so far since you've been out? Are you sleeping peacefully?
Yes, very, very well. As a matter of fact, too well. I explained to my daughter the prisons, the lights are always on, and there's people that scream, throughout the cell block well into the night and all that. And she just kind of went, yeah. But I went to bed a little bit before her, and she went to wake me up and say something, and stood in the bedroom screaming, and I still didn't wake up. So I'm sleeping like a rock. This is a great improvement over sleeping on a 2-inch thick mat with the lights on a steel base, with people screaming. It's a huge improvement.
I'm betting you've had a Chicago pizza since you've been out.
First day.
That was my very first day. A couple of miles from the prison, I had a sausage McMuffin, which you would never think that McDonald's would be a gourmet meal to somebody. That was. We got back to Chicago and had a carry-out Lou Malnati's pizza, which is beyond delicious.
Wow.
Awesome.
Wow.
It's those things, that we
Those
take
little
for granted.
things, for
We
sure.
take for granted so much that things, and and you can have it all taken from you, and be a completely innocent man. In my opinion,
And he did.
It's just such a shame.
It is. So, what does life look like for
Forward.
you right
Yeah,
now?
what are you looking to do?
What are you looking to do? What are your goals right now?
Well, really, my biggest goal is to, get myself acclimated back into society, get a driver's license and that. But my biggest hurdle is going to be looking for employment. I am 60
Okay.
years old, and as you know, the COVID lockdown is still hampering our economy. So I'm going to start looking, and I'm hoping I can get, through the networks of people, I can get help finding a job. Because I think if I can show the Bureau of Prisons and the courts and all that, because just think of the argument I can make to my sentencing court is I can show them how I would live if I'm released from my sentence.
Exactly.
How many people get to prove that? I have the opportunity right now.
Right. This is a chance for you to do things not that you ever did anything the wrong way, Craig. That's not what I'm trying to say, but to do things the right way, where they don't have an argument against you. It's like he came out, he wanted to get right back to
Agreed.
work.
I'm still stuck on the fact that he did nothing wrong.
I know,
and he shouldn't have to prove himself. And to me, he's owed everything.
I get that.
And
I'm 100%.
And I'm just appalled at our system. I'm appalled at what they've done to you. I'm appalled at the Terre Haute prison and what they've done to you. The warden there, I'm appalled at what he's done to you and how he was able to sleep at night from doing that. It's these are the things that we need to change, and this is happening everywhere. I mean, your case is one of many, and these changes have to happen. And look, that's why Peter and I are living the way that we live off grid. We live on the Garden of Freedom. We are all about localization. We're not about centralization. Localization is the solution for polarization.
Right.
If
we let people take care of themselves, they will. We need to do things much differently.
Yeah. And we have to accept the fact we're going over we have so many of us that are focused on Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. What we need to focus on is we all need to have one consensus that all lives do not matter to the federal government.
That's right. No life does.
That's it. And we have to fix that because we are the people and we make the choice. Yeah. And very well said. What was done to you is a travesty. It needs to be rectified. It needs to be rectified for sure.
I agree with you 100%.
We hear of jails all over the country in the last 2 or 3 months, releasing all kinds of people they were holding, to cut down the spread of the coronavirus. But they're releasing, explaining to the public that these people are not a threat to society. They're drug offenders. They're not a threat to society. Then why were they in jail and getting prosecuted in the first place? I think is a question that's not getting asked.
Because it's a broken system, and it's there's no other explanation that it just doesn't make sense. It's nonsensical, period, and no logical mind is ever going to wrap around it. And this is the problem that we've all been living, and it's a whole nother story when you talk about why is our society so easily to conform to such nonsense. And it's all by design. I mean, our food is polluted, our water is polluted. We have a society that's living on pharmaceuticals. Our brains have slowed down. Our receptors are turned off. We are not functioning to our full capacity. And that's all of it in a nutshell. And these are the things that we have to change. We have to open up people's eyes with holism. We have to waken up their brain and make serious changes. And I was wishing that
lots of people doing that. I mean, and even in Christ's case, you got Sharice Sakar.
Well, yeah. Well, again, that's why I was just going to mention Adela, because that's why we back Adam Kokesh. That's why we back Adela Wisdom, because these are the people that are going to make the changes that we need, and we have to put them all in office. We have to get out there. We have to vote. We have to be able to make
we have to be,
or we just make a whole new government,
and we run locally. And
yes.
People think that you have to be the president of the United States to make change in this world. You do not. You could be some little podunk town, and if you just treat people properly and your laws are good, people are going to want to live in your town.
That's right.
And that's the end of that.
That's right.
That's the end of that. It doesn't cost nothing to be a good human being.
Not at all.
Damn sure.
Not at all.
Hey, I'm interjecting here. I found the pause.
So, Craig, is there anything that you would like the people to know? Is there anything that you need that we can donate to,
I
or
think we
letters
have
you
a
need
link out,
written?
actually, I think if Jim looks, I think there's a link for his fund. There's a fund I think set up for him while he's out.
There's a
A GoFundMe.
GoFundMe,
I
yes.
think, yeah.
I
Make sure
believe
that's
Joe
right.
put it up, didn't he?
I don't know.
Is that it?
That was my
Yeah, I
daughter
believe it.
visiting me while I was in the yellow prison uniform in the visiting room. That was our time together. And here last Sunday was the first Father's Day I really had since 2001 with my
Thank you.
daughter.
Yeah,
It,
and God
it was
bless her. And
wonderful.
she's been a pinnacle of strength of class. She's been really tough through this whole thing for her dad, you know?
Well, she's a fighter.
Yeah. God
Good
bless
girl.
her. That's right.
Wow. So, Craig, is there anything else that you'd like the people to know? Anything else you want to discuss?
Well, just for people to push your congressman, because I think if they announced on TV tomorrow that next Thursday our Congress is going to vote on taking marijuana out of being a listed controlled substance, just having the federal government get out of it altogether and leave it to the states, I think the people would deluge their Congress people and Washington D.C. and all that, and I can't see how that vote would ever fail. They just need the
Right.
guts to actually bring that up and do it. So everybody needs to get to your congressman. Ask them why you aren't pushing this. Why is this not happening? When it's favored in America, and so many, what is it? 33 states now have marijuana legalized at least in some form.
It's silly.
Well, I think it would come a lot easier for people to motivate themselves to do that once they have the education. The education is a no-brainer. Once you have it, it's a no-brainer what needs to happen. And it's anything less than the end of prohibition is human genocide. We will never find homeostasis in Western medicine. It's impossible. Cannabinoids engulf oxygen-free radicals. Oxygen-free radicals are what wreaks havoc on our body, and that's what promotes sickness and accelerates aging process. If you're going to take cannabinoids away from us, then you're killing us.
The very essence of our life.
It's just that simple. The cannabis plant is the tree of life. That's not a fallacy. That is a fact. And it's a scientific proven fact. We need the education so that our society can make these informed decisions to say, no, this is not right. This is genocide. When they took it away from the farms, when all the farms closed down and they stopped growing hemp, we stopped having cannabinoids in our air, in our earth, in our water, in our food. Sure, we have cannabinoids from other plants, but the true medicine is in the resin content of a plant. Not just it's
not that it just contains
not that it just contains cannabinoids. It's the amount of them that gives it the medicinal value. So they're always nutraceutical, always. But it's imperative to our very being of longevity and quality of life.
So why would you stick anybody ever?
It's that simple.
So why would you ever stick somebody in a prison cell for it? It doesn't make
any sense to condemn anybody for that plant. It should be in every food store across America, but without GMO touching it.
But I've often wondered if who's really pulling the strings for our politicians is the drug manufacturers that make drugs to fight seizures, that make pain medications, that make, psychological drugs. That might be our actual enemy. They might actually be the ones pulling the strings.
Look, the enemy and the oligarch or the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, in my eyes, is the big five. That's Big Medica, Big Agribiz, Big Chema, Big Techna, Big Techna, and what's the fifth one?
I don't remember which one you said.
Anyway, there's five, but it's Big Chema, Big Medica, Big Agribiz, Big Pharma. I don't know. There's a fifth one, but anyway, it's all of those big corporations that are calling the shots, because look, they got to make these calls to keep lining their pockets, and that's just what it is. But we can't accept it any longer. We've become so complacent as a society because of how we live, which is learned, that no changes are going to be made until that changes. We have to change that.
All I can say is one good thing did come out of the COVID disaster, and that was Craig getting to come home.
Hell yeah.
So all the bad news that we heard about COVID this and COVID that, well, at least got Craig home, and that's
now the job is to keep you there.
That's right. That's right.
That's
and I'm proof that those advocates work and that letter writing and all that. That's the only reason I'm home. That works, and hopefully that can change our laws. The exact same activism.
Yeah.
I'm proof. The Bureau of Prisons didn't release me. Those activists and all those letters, including the activism of my own daughter, all those letters and all that made the difference. That's what sent me home.
Yes, yes. So now that you are home, are you picking up some activism yourself? Are you working on anything to try and get anybody else released? Working on your own case to get it to do away with your sentence?
I will be, but be honest, I don't know what my rules of home confinement are yet. So right now, I'm just kind of sitting back to see, how far I can push the margins.
Right.
Sit back, eat pizza, and enjoy life.
Well, we got your back, man, and we're here for you. Absolutely. And we're gonna fight for you, and we're gonna continue fighting for you.
You ever need?
Thank you. I can feel it more than anyone.
Hey, I want to jump in here. Read
Anytime you want to come on and speak about anything, you got something you need to say, just please reach out. I will, reach out to any one of us three, and we will get you on it and get whatever you need out there.
Thank you. Thank you.
I got a few comments here worth reading.
Craig.
Thank you, Lauren, for getting them on.
Yes, thank you, Lauren.
Thank you, Lauren. She's hiding over here.
She's beautiful. She don't have to hide anywhere.
I got a couple good comments here if you want to hear them.
Yes, please.
Well, there's one, Tracy Glore Pike. Craig is proof that public support matters. She's absolutely right, just like we were just talking about. This is the one I really wanted to show, though, here. Somebody was saying, I believe it's to you, Craig, they said, you would be the best spokesman for prison reform and for what we need to have change in our societies as a whole. I hope you find more joy in what you seek, and I stand behind you all the way. I feel the same as my sister-in-law.
Thank you. Thank you.
You got a lot of people behind you, man, and I happen to agree. I think you'd be a great spokesman because your case is unique and just who you are, your demeanor, like a couple of people brought up, you're real. You would be the perfect spokesman to make that case because it's absolutely.
I'd like to be, and I'm definitely going to work towards that. Our laws need to change.
Yeah, cool.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Hey, Jim, who was that comment by?
That one was, it doesn't say, it just says Facebook user.
Wow, okay.
I guess they have to approve their name because some of them say Facebook user and some of them give their name. So I don't know.
Okay.
I got my freelance Glore shirt on. I try to make sure that, we always talk about Craig and we talk about Lance. Mm-hmm. And we talk about Michael Thompson and others on our show every week. But it's just it's an honor just to finally have this man out of prison and be able to sit in front of us, even though on a screen, and talk.
Yeah, I had to do about your pink hair.
I know what it was like. The first time I walked into my grandmother's home and my grandmother the phone, she's looking at Helen talk to her on the other end of the phone, like, what the heck is this thing? Like, and how is she in there? So I know in the last 18 years, they've come up, I'm sure, with a lot of crazy things that you definitely had to deal with. And but it'll give you something to play with.
That's for sure. All right, Craig. It was great talking to you. Great having you.
Thank you, and thank you for all your support.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor. Truly an honor.
Thank you. And we'll be in the fight together for a long time. I'm not leaving.
That's right.
That's right.
Even if they
That's
put
right.
me back behind bars, I'm still going to be fighting.
That's right.
Well, no, we know that, but we hope you don't have to fight another second from
No,
that.
no.
That's what the whole.
Yeah, it's time to work on keeping you home, and that's it.
Thank you.
Vacating that sentence.
Excellent.
All right, Lauren, take care of your daddy, like you've been.
All right.
All right.
Jim Freedom, it's been anything you want to add from your perspective of today's show or your adventures from the last couple days?
No, not anything specific. I've been out of town because I was golfing with my dad for Father's Day, and then
Yeah.
decided to just hang out with the family for a while I had the chance while I was in town. You know.
Did
So
you
that was
win?
all. Of course. Actually, I went with my dad and my two brothers, and me and my brother are a team. We played as a team against my dad and my other brother as a
Oh,
team, and
okay.
me and my brother won by 4 strokes and 5
Wow.
holes. It was fun though. We had a great
you're
time.
on your way home, right?
Yeah. I'm in Prescott now, so I'm like an hour and a half away, so it's right around. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll make sure dinner's ready.
Yeah, I might go into Walmart here if
I know
anybody
what
needs
we're
anything.
doing for dinner. We're having chicken patties with a fried egg and bacon
Oh, yeah.
on a sandwich with veggies.
Yeah.
Good shit.
Jim, that's your
And shit. Don't forget that.
means I got to get to work. All right,
Yes.
everybody, that's it from Pete and Helen. You
Yes.
this week. I'm sorry Adela didn't make it on. We'll reach out to her. We'll get her on.
She's
next
gonna
week.
be pissed that she missed Craig,
But
man.
listen,
She's gonna be mad.
Listen, she's going through so much
She
right
is
now.
going
I'm
through so
never
much.
going to hold against
No, of
anything
course not.
against anybody that's got charges against them. I would never hold anything against them at all for not being able to show up or have something. come up.
Yeah, that's
There's more important things to do than talk to us on the phone.
anyway. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I'm sorry that we missed Adela,
I am
and I
too.
look forward to having her
Love Adela.
on.
She's
And
great.
I'm sorry, Adela, for everything that you're going through. I love you, girl. And my surprise for you today was Craig,
Yeah, that's
but we'll do it again.
yeah. we will.
So, until next time, be the best you can be.
Yep, guys, join us next week. We'll keep trying to entertain you, educate you, and teach you how to live a can of lifestyle. And next week, hopefully, I won't be talking with Fat Lip.
Unless I punch you for real.
I'll stick on another night.
Bye.
Peace.